In the desolate heart of Nevada, where dust whispered tales of forgotten desperation, Callan Brooks, a widower adrift in grief with his sightless son, stumbled not upon directions, but into the chilling abyss of an illicit auction trading not cattle, but children. His pockets held little more than lint and courage, yet an impossible choice ignited a spark in the ashes of his life. This act of reckless compassion, mysteriously aided by an unseen benefactor, brought two traumatized twin girls, Aurelia and Lyra, into their fragile world. What followed was a quiet miracle, the mending of broken souls, the forging of an extraordinary family, and the slow, beautiful redrawing of scarred lives by the astonishing power of love. Their story unfolds from that desperate night, revealing how hope can bloom in the harshest terrain, nurtured by the most unexpected hands. The old cattle auction yard, long surrendered to dust, and Nevada's unforgiving sun still exhaled the ghost scent of livestock and desperation. No animals had been sold here in decades. Grit, thick as old sorrow, coated every surface, disturbed only by desert creatures and slivers of harsh sunlight knifing through boarded-up windows. Tonight, however, the cavernous main barn wasn't empty. A generator coughed, powering bare, yellow bulbs that cast long, uneasy shadows. This was no place for legitimate business. Callan Brooks hadn't meant to be here. He was delivering a repaired irrigation pump to a struggling ranch, a small job to keep wolves from his own door. A washed-out bridge and a crudely scrawled detour sign led him astray, his ancient pickup rattling. He'd seen the faint glow of lights, heard the generators hum, and mistaking it for the ranch, approached for directions. What he found froze his blood. Men, mostly, hard-eyed, watchful. A few women equally grim. They weren't trading livestock. They were trading in human misery. Children. Callan stood near the back, his broad shoulders, usually stooped from labor and grief for his late wife, Lena, now rigid. At his side, his 10-year-old son, Rowan, clutched his hand, small fingers of ice of unknowing trust. Rowan's pale blue eyes, filmed by congenital blindness, scanned nothing. His hearing, too, was muffled, a world perceived through cotton wool. Callan spoke slowly, clearly, near his left ear. Tonight, Rowan was silent, head tilted, sensing the corrosive tension. That silence weighed heavily on Callan's burdened heart. He shouldn't be here. Instinct screamed at him to turn, drag Rowan back, flee before the stench of desperation, thicker than the barn's decay, settled on him too. But then she dragged them forward. Two girls, identical in matted blonde hair, bare, bruised feet, two thin frames in ragged clothes. 6, maybe 7. Not identical in spirit. One stood tall, fragile defiance in her trembling limbs, chin jutted. The other clung to her sister's sleeve, lip quivering. The woman behind them, Corinne, their stepmother, gaunt and sharp-eyed, reeking of stale cigarettes and cheap perfume, jerked their arms. "All right, listen up, you vultures," she sneered, voice grating. "This here's a package deal. Good girls. Know how to keep quiet, do what they're told. Healthy enough, just need fattening up. Starting at 200. Cash only, no questions." Her tone implied illicit disposal. A low murmur rippled through the sparse crowd. Men shifted, but their eyes, predatory or callously curious, remained fixed. A woman in a threadbare coat clutched her handbag. Cold dread unfurled in Callan's gut. The girls weren't flinching at the yelling, used to it. He glanced at Rowan. His son tilted his head further, frowning, sensing the dark energy, but seeing nothing. "No takers?" Corinne barked, patience fraying. "Fine. 150. They'll work. They know fear. And they don't cry no more. That's valuable, ain't it?" Callan's jaw locked. He hadn't planned this. Hadn't come with anything but a faulty pump and a heart fractured by Lena's loss 6 years prior. but the hollow, haunted look in the taller twin's eyes, the way she instinctively curled an arm around her sister, made it impossible to walk away. He thought of Rowan, small and vulnerable, rage, cold and pure, warred with despair. 78, he heard himself say, voice rough, cracking the charged silence, and 3 cents. Every head turned. Corinne squinted, painted lips twisting. What'd you say, dirt farmer? You deaf or just stupid? That's what I've got, Callan repeated, voice steadier, though his insides churned. He met her gaze. Not a hero. A man running on fumes, nothing left to lose but the last vestiges of his humanity. It's all I can offer for them to have a chance. A safe place. Silence blanketed the room, heavy, disbelieving. Corinne scoffed. 78 for 2 mouths to feed? Get out of here. I'm not buying mouths, Callan said, voice low but unwavering. I'm offering shelter. He stepped forward, fumbling for his worn wallet. Coins clinked loudly in the sudden hush. His hand trembled as he laid the meager sum on a dusty barrel. An act of sheer desperate faith. Then, from shadows near the generator, a new voice emerged, smooth, female, unmistakably in control. I'll cover the difference. And a little extra for your trouble, Corinne, to ensure these girls are forgotten by you. All eyes swiveled. At the edge of dim light stood a woman, features partially obscured by a stylish hat. A long, dark coat concealed her figure. Her gloved hand held a slim envelope, passed subtly to a hulking man, Corinne's associate. No one recognized her. Corinne's eyes lit with avaricious gleam. She knew money. This woman radiated quiet, indisputable wealth. Deal, Corinne snapped, snatching the envelope. Take 'em. Your problem now. Callan looked toward the woman, but she was receding into shadows, boots soft on debris. She didn't look back. He turned to the twins. Can you walk? The one holding her sister nodded, eyes wide, wary. Callan bent, knees creaking. I'm Callan. This is my son, Rowan. You're safe now. Understand? The girls didn't reply, but stepping down from the block, hands clasped like lifelines, was answer enough. They rode home in Callan's rust-streaked pickup under a sky weeping cold, persistent rain. Rowan had the front seat, a small comfort. Callan wrapped the twins in his only 2 spare jackets, smelling of dust and diesel. Neither girl spoke. The younger eventually slept, head lolling on her sister's shoulder. The older Aurelia stared out, reflection a ghostly mask against the dark, rushing landscape, as if still trapped. What are your names? Callan asked gently, voice barely above the engine's thrum. Aurelia hesitated. Aurelia? She whispered. She's Lyra. Pretty names, Callan said, words inadequate. You girls hungry? Silence was their answer. At the cabin, 2 rooms, a hiccuping wood stove, a rarely used fireplace. Callan unlocked the door, switched on the single overhead bulb. The living room was small, worn, but clean. Rowan's braille books were stacked carefully. Callan watched Aurelia scan the space, assessing it like a trapped animal. You can sleep here tonight, he said, gesturing to the pull-out couch. Blankets are clean. I'll fix something warm. Aurelia didn't move, fingers brushing the couch as if it might vanish. Callan crouched. You don't owe me anything, he said softly, trying to channel a kindness he wasn't sure he possessed. You're just home now. For the first time, something flickered in her expression. Not trust, but maybe the memory of it. In the kitchen, boiling water for thin potato soup, Callan looked through the grimy window. Rain lashed the glass. He thought of the woman at the auction, Vivian Hartley, he'd later learn. Who was she? Why him? Questions for another day. Tonight, 2 small, silent girls slept on his couch, and Rowan's rhythmic breathing in the next room was the only answer he needed or could bear. Morning crept through frost-laced windows. The wood stove coughed before giving into flame. Callan stirred from the recliner, back aching. Silence, but not the hollow kind since Lena passed. This was filled with sleeping breath, something fragile, like nascent hope. He rose quietly, joints protesting, peeked into the living room. Aurelia and Lyra lay curled on the pull-out couch, blanketed. Lyra's tiny hand peeked out, gripping her sister's shirt. A fierce, protective pang shot through Callan. Rowan was awake, cross-legged on the rug near dying embers, hand on his tactile storybook. Batteries long dead, but he turned thick pages, fingers tracing braille. "Morning, buddy," Callan whispered, kneeling. "Sleep okay?" Rowan nodded slowly. Callan touched his shoulder. "We have guests now, Rowan. Girls, remember?" The boy nodded again, faster, brow furrowed. "They'll be part of our family for a while," Callan said, words monumental, terrifyingly inadequate. "We help them, they help us. Okay?" Rowan's hand found Callan's, a small, warm pressure. "Answer enough." In the kitchen, Callan made oatmeal, stretching the last oats with extra water, a splash of canned milk, a spoonful of brown sugar. 4 cracked bowls, mismatched spoons, tin cups of lukewarm water. He paused, stared at Lena's empty 5th chair, then added a 5th setting: habit or premonition. When the girls awoke, Aurelia moved first, stiff but deliberate, brushing hair from Lyra's eyes, helping her sit. She guided her like someone older, who'd learned young the world could turn violent. Callan greeted them. "Morning," voice careful. Offered oatmeal. Lyra eyed the bowl suspiciously. "We don't have to clean something for it?" Aurelia asked, voice a tiny thread. "No," Callan replied, trying a reassuring smile. "You just have to eat it." Aurelia squinted at the spoons. "They don't match." He smiled faintly. "Not even close. Most things here don't." Rowan waited, fingers poised above his bowl. "Come on," Callan said. "Let's eat." 5 sat. First time every seat was used since Lena. Back then, Rowan was a baby, unaware of the hole his mother's absence left. Extra chairs had grown cold. Now, elbows brushed, awkward glances across steaming oatmeal. Quiet, but an alive quiet, thrumming with unspoken questions. Halfway through, Rowan tapped the table twice, then 3 times. Aurelia noticed. "He's counting," she said softly. Callan looked up, surprised. "You understood that?" "In the dark," she whispered. "When Corinne locked us in the closet. 1 tap was yes, 2 was no, 3 meant I don't know." Callan blinked, horror stealing his breath. "You made that up?" She nodded, gaze on the tabletop. "Only way to talk." Silence fell, heavy. Callan put his spoon down. "Well," he said, voice rough, "maybe we keep that code. Could be useful." Rowan, sensing the shift, turned to Aurelia and smiled faintly, like the first desert marigold. After breakfast, children helped with small chores, unasked. Aurelia wiped the counter, movements precise. Lyra swept the rough floor, brow furrowed. Rowan, inspired, tapped to help bring firewood. They worked like people accustomed to earning their keep. No fuss, just quiet, purposeful movement, occasional sideways glances, as if waiting for a blow that never came. Callan watched, heart a knot of anger and burgeoning protectiveness. That afternoon, sifting through old linens, Callan found a faded quilt, patterned with pale desert primroses. He laid it on the girl's couch. "Hadn't seen this in years," he murmured. "Lena's, my wife's favorite." Aurelia stared, then carefully folded it over Lyra's sleeping shoulders before crawling under herself. That night, Callan sat by the fire. Rowan leaned against him. The girls whispered on the couch. Half words, murmured sighs. Later, Callan stared at the ceiling. 5 plates, 3 children, and Vivian Hartley, an avenging angel who disappeared. He didn't know where this path led if he could afford next week. but something in his soul, buried under grief, felt right. Not perfect, not easy, but good. And good, Callan thought, was close to a miracle. The following days settled like new dust, soft but uncertain. Nothing moved fast, but everything changed. Callan noticed it in the quiet. Not trauma's silence, but hushed whispers between makeshift bunks, rustling pages of library books, Rowan's Braille, girls' picture books, soft padding of bare feet. The sound of healing, Callan learned, was often subtle. Rowan sat closer to the girls during meals, head tilted, listening not just with compromised ears, but through floorboard vibrations, the air. One evening, he reached across, gently tapped Aurelia's bowl. 3 soft taps. "I don't know," Aurelia said immediately, a small, genuine smile. "That's what it means, right?" Rowan nodded, then one decisive tap. "Yes." Lyra giggled, a sound so rare Callan nearly dropped his fork, like a spring in a dry arroyo. On the 4th morning, sun, a rare winter gift, slipped through pinon pines, melting hoarfrost. Callan stepped onto the porch to chop firewood, found Aurelia on the top step, breath visible, tattered blanket over her shoulders. "Always up this early?" he asked. She shrugged, gaze on distant snow-capped mountains. "Couldn't sleep." He paused, axe in hand. "Bad dreams?" She didn't answer, looking into trees, searching. After a beat, she turned, eyes like a stormy sky, startlingly direct. "Why did you help us?" Callan lowered the axe. "I didn't buy you, Aurelia," he said, voice gentle but firm. "I offered everything I had to get you away from her, from that place." Aurelia's eyes searched his. "Why? You didn't know us." Callan sighed, cold air stinging his lungs. "Rowan was about your age when his mom passed. I know what it looks like when a kid's eyes stop hoping. I guess I just couldn't stand to see it again." She stared, unwavering, searching for a crack, a lie. Found none. Simply nodded, almost imperceptibly, turned back to the mountains. Later, a minor crisis. Lyra, chasing a dust mote, tripped, scraped her knee. Superficial, but it bled. She whimpered, louder than expected from a girl usually defiant. Callan knelt. "All right, soldier, let's get you cleaned up." Before he could rise, Aurelia appeared, damp cloth, rusty first aid kit, cobwebs, hardened bandages. "Wait," she said, voice surprisingly firm. "I can do it." She pressed the cloth to Lyra's knee, dabbed blood. Movement slow, precise, learned, beyond her 7 years. Blew gently, applied ancient antiseptic, a too large bandage. Lyra sniffled, whimpers subsiding. "She's better with wounds than anyone," Lyra mumbled, looking at Callan, tear-filled. Callan raised an eyebrow at Aurelia. "How'd you learn all that?" Aurelia didn't look up, smoothing the bandage. "I watched nurses. Every time Corinne hit us bad enough to go to the ER." Voice flat, devoid of self-pity. Her hands didn't shake. The casual horror struck Callan anew. This child, an expert in battlefield triage born of abuse. That night, after children were in bed, Callan stood at the window, watching early snow. Thoughts wandered to Vivian Hartley. An envelope had been tucked in their mailbox. $200, a typed note. "Keep going. You're doing better than you think." No signature. Gratitude and unease swirled. Who was she? Why him? A week later, Callan drove to town with Rowan and the twins for their first library outing. He braced for stares, whispers, but hoped familiarity would soften suspicion. The librarian, Ms. Louise, kind widow, late 60s, silver hair, welcomed them. As Callan fumbled with applications, she leaned in. "You're Callan Brooks, aren't you?" "Lena's Callan. Took in those little ones." Callan stiffened. Miss Louise smiled gently. "Heard whispers about the old auction yard. God bless your heart. Lena would be proud." Callan didn't correct her, just nodded, lump in his throat. In the children's section, Lyra discovered audiobooks, eyes lit. She rushed to show Rowan. Aurelia wandered nonfiction, stopping at human anatomy. She pulled out a large illustrated volume, brow furrowed, turning pages. Callan knelt beside her. "Interesting stuff, huh?" She looked up, eyes shining. "I want to know how it all works," she whispered, finger tracing veins on a hand diagram. "Your body?" Callan asked. "No," she said, gaze profound. "How to fix people." He smiled genuinely. "Well, this is a good place to start." They left with 5 books, 3 chattering children, and a strange sense of forward motion, like a broken clock ticking back to life. That night, tucking Rowan in, the boy tapped the mattress. 1 tap. Pause. 1. Pause. 1. Yes. 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 Callan frowned. "What are you saying yes to, bud?" Rowan turned, pale eyes wide with startling clarity. "She helps," he whispered, voice clearer than in months. "She makes me here." Callan froze. "Lyra?" "With audiobooks." Rowan shook his head decisively. "Aurelia." Callan blinked, overcome. "How, Rowan?" "How does she help you here?" "She touches my hand," Rowan said, fingers tapping his own palm. "And I know what's real." Callan sat by the fire, heart unexpectedly full. Crayon drawings taped to the refrigerator, muddy shoes by the door, breath of 3 sleeping children. Next to nothing in the bank, no clear plan. But a boy speaking again, a girl wanting to heal, another relearning laughter, and Vivian Hartley watching, guiding. He didn't know what tomorrow held. But tonight, for the first time in years, he didn't dread its arrival. That, Callan thought, was what hope sounded like. Quiet breathing of children, finally safe. The first real December storm arrived like an unwelcome, belligerent guest, slamming through Nevada mountains with ice-laced breath. Callan was on the roof before sunrise, wind tearing his worn jacket, nailing down a loose tin sheet. Should have replaced it last spring, but should have, didn't pay for groceries. 1 nail at a time. That held everything together. Inside was dim, whirled outside a maelstrom of swirling snow. Power flickered off twice. Heat from the wood stove struggled. Still, children bustled with quiet, ingrained routine. Aurelia, face serious, gathered firewood. Lyra folded clothes Callan left drying, tongue poked in concentration. Rowan, by the window, listened to wind whistle through cracks like a mournful ancient song. No complaints. Their resilience rebuked the storm. At noon, the storm hit full ferocity. Cabin groaned, power cut completely, plunging them into murky twilight. Callan limped inside, soaked, hand bleeding from an unseen nail, roof efforts a temporary truce. He didn't realize the cut until Aurelia gasped. "You're hurt." "It's nothing," he muttered. "Roof's holding." But she was at the sink, hand steady, wetting a cloth, pulling down the first aid kit with methodical calm. "Sit," she ordered, voice carrying unexpected authority. Callan, surprised, obeyed. She cleaned the cut, touch gentle yet firm, blew softly, a maternal gesture making his chest ache, wrapped it with clean rag, tighter than he'd managed. Looked up, not child to adult, but equal understanding pain. "You can't do it all by yourself, you know," he exhaled. "Someone has to, Aurelia." She tilted her head. "Not if someone's helping." By mid-afternoon, the cabin was dangerously cold. Storm raged. Callan lit every candle, including Lena's pine-scented one. Filled a pot with water, potatoes, lentils, last carrots, stirred it over the hearth fire. "Smells like soup," Lyra said hopefully, peering over his shoulder. "Almost," Callan replied, managing a smile. She leaned against his arm. "You're good at pretending things are fine," she observed knowingly. He gave her a sideways look. "That obvious, huh?" She grinned. "Only to people who've done it too." They ate soup on the floor near the hearth, bowls cradled, spoons clicking. Sacred moment, 5 huddled against the storm, steam rising, candlelight flickering. Rowan, surprisingly, reached for seconds, tapping Callan's arm. More. Yes. Callan pretended not to notice tears. After dinner, Lyra dug out battered cards, taught Rowan to sort by touch, worn edges, embossed patterns. Spade feels like a shovel, Rowan said, smiling. And hearts are for love, Lyra declared. Everyone needs love, Rowan replied, brow furrowed. Callan turned, hiding his smile. Where had his son learned such simple profundity? Aurelia sat nearby, flipping through an anatomy book by flickering light. Paused on a diagram of the human ear, finger gently touching intricate parts. You think I'll ever fix it? She whispered softly. Callan looked over, heart aching. You're already fixing more than you know, Aurelia. Wind died after midnight. Power stayed off. Callan found an old battery radio. Faint, crackling weather report. Black ice, power outages, school closures. No one coming up their remote road for a while. They made the most of it. Pillow forts. Fantastical stories. Rowan providing sound effects. Lyra acting dramatic parts. Callan, feeling a lightness not experienced in years, taught them compass use, reading animal tracks, cooking oatmeal over open fire. In return, children taught him to smile without guilt, laugh without flinching, see his cabin not as a ruin of grief, but a refuge. 3 days later, sun cracked through snow-laden junipers. A surprise, not mail. Wrapped in plain brown paper, left in the woodshed by someone unseen, Vivian, he suspected, was a new winter coat for Aurelia, fleece-lined boots for Lyra, a braille watch for Rowan, each tagged. For those who walk through storms with open hearts. No signature. Callan held the note, fingers brushing smooth paper. A small smile. He tucked it into the old wooden box with Lena's letters, and now other inexplicable miracles. The thaw came quietly. Late January, snow on the tin roof let go in a soft, wet rush. A drip formed outside the kitchen window, slow, steady. Callan watched, sipping coffee. Wood smoke clung to everything, a comforting perfume. Warm. They'd made it. Behind him, Aurelia and Lyra sat with Rowan. He traced letters on an old cereal box Aurelia flattened, written on in thick black marker. D, Aurelia said patiently. Like doctor. Rowan nodded, fingers exploring the letter's curve. Lyra piped in, or D like daring, or donuts, or dad. She shot Callan a cheeky grin. Lots of things begin with D, Callan chuckled. Life is full of D words, Dad, Lyra said with solemn gravity. He raised an eyebrow. You're not wrong there, Sparky. Later, Callan drove to Juniper Creek to patch a pipe in Ms. Louise's bookshop. Brought Aurelia for company, and because she asked incessant questions about everything mechanical, biological. She observed with unnerving intensity. Why does the pipe hiss before it bursts? She asked, watching him tighten a joint. Air gets forced through before water, Callan explained. It's a warning. If you listen, Aurelia thought. So people hiss too. He glanced sideways. What do you mean? When they're about to break, she said, quiet but certain. They hiss first, say sharp things, or get real quiet, then cry, or yell. Callan didn't know how to respond. She was 7, maybe, saw too much, wisdom forged in pain. After, Ms. Louise offered hot cocoa, oatmeal cookies. A sharp yelp pierced the quiet, an animal in distress. Aurelia was on her feet, cocoa forgotten. Outside, a scruffy terrier pup, tangled in a rusty wire fence, front leg bleeding. The elderly neighbor wrung his hands. Oh dear, I'll call animal control. Aurelia crouched beside the whimpering dog, whispering calmly, hand outstretched. Maybe we can help first, she said, voice steady. Callan approached. You sure, honey? She nodded, focused on the terrified animal. Scared but not mean. Just hurt. She gently untangled its leg. Asked Callan for his cleanest bandana, pressed it to the wound. With his help, they fashioned a makeshift splint from a branch and cloth from Ms. Louise's rag bag. Aurelia hummed softly, a tuneless, soothing melody her real mom used to hum. The pup stopped shaking, licked her hand. Ms. Louise whispered, awed, "That child? Healer's hands, Callan?" Like Lena. The mention of his wife felt different, softer. That evening, Aurelia sat drawing in Rowan's old notebook. A rough but detailed sketch of the dog's leg. Bones, muscle, wound site, labeled as best she could. Callan stared, astounded. Remembered all that, from library books? She nodded, earnest. "I want to fix people," she said plainly. Rowan, curled next to her, traced the drawing. Tapped once. "Yes. Yes, you're already fixing us, Aurelia Bell," Callan murmured, remembering Agnes Periwinkle's tools, calipers, magnifying glass, tucked away. Time to bring them out. Next morning, a package. Plain cardboard box on the porch. Inside, a new children's stethoscope, small white coat, perfectly sized, and an illustrated book. Healing Hands, a young person's guide to medical curiosity. Vivian Hartley's familiar script, a gift for the girl who already knows. Healing begins with care, not credentials. Callan stood on the porch, note in hand. Snowmelt dripped. Vivian, watching, nurturing. He looked at the vast sky, smiled softly. "Thank you," he whispered. When Aurelia opened the box, pulled out the coat, she didn't squeal. Slipped it on, fumbling with buttons. Looked down with profound, solemn recognition, as if she'd known. Stood taller. "Do I look like a doctor?" she asked, hushed. Rowan gave a firm thumbs up. "You look born for it, Aurelia," Callan said, voice catching. She nodded solemnly. "Good. Then I better keep learning." Carefully took the stethoscope, placed earpieces in her ears, chest piece tentatively against Rowan's chest, brow furrowed. A small smile as she listened. That night, Lyra leaned against Callan. Rowan nestled between traced letters on her arm. "Think Aurelia will really be a doctor?" she asked. "I think she already is, in all ways that count," Callan said, stroking her hair. Lyra smiled sleepily. "I want to be something too. Something big." "You already are big, Lyra Bug." She shook her head, fire igniting. "No, I mean something loud. Something that talks back. Makes the world pay attention." Callan thought of her voice, bright, insistent, translating Rowan's taps, carrying herself like a tiny firework. He nodded. "You'll find it, Sparky. You'll find your voice." He knew. One would heal with hands, the other with words. Both miracles in motion, unfolding in his small cabin. Testament to resilience. Snow mostly gone by February. In town, sidewalks wet, salt-stained. The small square school, sagging slightly, looked like it weathered more Nevada winters than students. Lyra's first official day. Aurelia started 2 weeks earlier, quiet, observant, a teacher's delight. But Lyra, different. Callan asked 5 times if she was nervous. Same answer. Defiant grin, shrug. "I'm not nervous," adjusting her blue hairband. "I'm observing." "Observing?" Callan asked. "Yeah, to see who needs someone to say what they can't." He laughed softly. "You're 6, Lyra. Almost 7. "Exactly." She hopped out, squaring her shoulders like stepping onto a stage. By noon, Lyra made her mark. Not with paint or altercations. Cafeteria. A thin, skittish boy dropped his tray near older 5th graders. They laughed cruelly as he scrambled, face flaming. "Look at Specs," one sneered. "Bet your mom still cuts your food." Cafeteria hushed. No one spoke, except Lyra Brooks. She stood, small figure commanding, lunchbox clutched. "That's not funny," voice clear, ringing. Older kids turned, surprised. Tray-dropping boy froze, eyes wide. Fear, dawning hope. Lyra stepped forward, undaunted. What's funny about someone being nervous, or scared, or needing help? Ringleader, greasy hair, permanent sneer, scoffed. Mind your business, pipsqueak. You some kind of stray? Lyra didn't flinch. Chin jutted further. My business is people like him. Voice rising, caring. I used to hide under a bed because someone said I was too noisy, took up too much space. But someone helped me. Someone who didn't have to. So I know what it feels like when nobody speaks up for you. Silence. Real, profound. Then someone clapped. Tentative, single, then more, rippling. The boy blinked at Lyra as if she'd conjured fire. Lyra sat, resumed eating her sandwich. Later, Callan got the dreaded call from Principal Hewitt. Braced for bad news. Instead, Principal's stunned voice. Mr. Brooks, Eleanor Hewitt, I just wanted to say thank you. For what? Callan asked, bewildered. For raising, Principal Hewitt said, incredulous laughter in her voice. A 6-year-old advocate for kindness. That evening, Lyra recounted the story over dinner, casual, matter of fact. Aurelia blinked. You stood up to a 5th grader? He was mean, Lyra said simply, and unkind. Someone had to say so. Rowan beside her smiled, tapped once. Yes. Callan leaned back, eyes on the small, fierce girl, his daughter by bond, not blood. Her fire was catching light. Next week, an envelope. Lyra Brooks, CEO Callan Brooks. No return address. Inside, not handwriting, but a professionally printed brochure. Young Orators Workshop. Summer program, State Capitol. Public speaking for elementary kids. Typed note. The world needs more voices like hers. Consider this a beginning. All expenses covered by anonymous Desert Bloom Foundation grant. Callan nearly dropped it. Vivian Hartley, he murmured. Familiar gratitude and unease. Lyra, peering over his shoulder, didn't blink. Good. I want them to see. Spring approached. Green shoots through mud. Children bloomed. Aurelia, small white coat draped over her chair or clutched like a talisman, drew intricate heart diagrams, read aloud to Rowan about skeletal systems, turning pages so he could touch raised illustrations. Lyra wrote prodigious, passionate essays. Her latest, Why Every Kid Deserves a Second Try and Maybe Grown-Ups Too, posted by proud Principal Hewitt. Parents noticed, marveled. Rowan, once largely silent, asked questions. Taps, gestures, touches often more sensible than spoken sentences. World opening piece by piece, helped by 2 sisters refusing to let him drift. Callan watched them, marveling, yet shadow of unanswered questions. Vivian Hartley, this profound, life-altering help. Was this miracle something he'd have to pay for? He kept typed notes in the box with Lena's letters, anonymous blessings. He didn't know where it led. But looking at Lyra, bold as thunder, Aurelia, patient as rain, Rowan, blinking at spring wind, he knew he wouldn't trade this precarious, astonishing life. It began with a receipt, small, wedged in Rowan's Braille storybook, from an anonymously delivered grocery box. Printed name, Desert Bloom Foundation, Disbursement Office. Beneath, small cursive, V. Hartley, authorization. Callan froze. Hartley. Vivian Hartley. Seen that name months ago. Faded news article wrapping gifted bread. Reclusive female billionaire, tech entrepreneur turned philanthropist, orphan, disappeared years ago. Desert Bloom. Heard whispered at town council. Discreet fund paying overdue school lunch debts. Stared at the receipt, hands cold. Hadn't looked for answers, almost afraid. Maybe it was time. Following morning, Callan loaded the pickup, leaving children with Ms. Louise, now an honorary aunt. She'd started story and craft hour Saturdays. Rowan loved tactile craft sensations. He drove 2 hours north towards Reno. Glass and steel buildings, blinking traffic lights, crowds. Found the address from a faded letterhead. Modest, unassuming office building, quiet downtown block, brass number, discreet buzzer. Pressed it. Calm, professional voice. Desert Bloom Foundation. How may I help you? I'm looking for Vivian Hartley, Callan said, voice hoarse. Pause. Do you have an appointment, sir? Number. But I think she might have saved my life. My family's. I'd just like 5 minutes. Longer pause. Then, come up to the 3rd floor. Suite 302. Lobby clean, minimalist, quiet, soft classical piano. Woman in charcoal gray suit, polite but guarded, greeted him. Mr. Brooks? He nodded, surprised she knew his name. She opened a frosted glass door. Ms. Hartley doesn't meet many people, but she asked to be notified if a Mr. Callan Brooks ever came asking. Callan's throat tightened. Why? You'll have to ask her that yourself. Vivian Hartley sat behind a pale oak desk, large windows overlooking a quiet, tree-lined park. Older than the photo, late 40s, maybe early 50s, same keen intelligence, poised stillness. No makeup, no jewelry, simple cashmere sweater, tailored slacks. Dark hair, streaked silver, pulled back. Untouched tea before her. Callan entered. She stood slowly, flicker of something unreadable in her composed eyes. Mr. Brooks. He hesitated, prepared words vanishing. You know me. I've known of you since that night at the old auction yard, she corrected gently. His jaw clenched slightly. You paid for those girls. I helped, she said, voice soft but firm. You were the one who couldn't walk away, Mr. Brooks. Offered everything you had, knowing it wasn't enough, but offering anyway. Callan stepped closer. Why? Vivian took a slow breath, gaze drifting to the park. Because once, barely a whisper, someone walked away from me. 7. Foster system. Temporary homes, temporary smiles. Kept thinking someone would come, choose me. They didn't. Turned back, eyes holding profound, ancient sorrow. So when I saw you, what you did for Aurelia and Lyra, like watching a wound I never knew could heal finally begin to close. He said nothing, absorbing every word. Vivian gestured to a chair. Please, sit. They talked almost an hour. Vivian explained Desert Bloom Foundation helped quietly, without publicity. Sought people who didn't ask for help, but chose compassion. Callan, she said, was one. Didn't want to interfere directly, she explained, hands resting on her desk. My team helps logistics. Goal is to empower, not control. Just wanted to keep a light on so you could keep walking your chosen path. Callan's voice, when found, cracked. You saved us, more than once. No, softer, almost tender. You saved them, Mr. Brooks. You, Aurelia, Lyra, Rowan, all saving each other. I just helped carry the lantern. Before leaving, Callan stood in the doorway. Always thought miracles were bigger, louder, more obvious. Vivian Hartley smiled faintly, genuine warmth crinkling her eyes. The real ones are quiet, Mr. Brooks. Often let you believe you did it all yourself. Perhaps that's their greatest power. Then, an afterthought. Your daughter, Lyra. Reminds me of who I might have become if someone rescued me sooner. That fire, it's precious. He blinked. You remember her name? I remember everything, Mr. Brooks, both blessing and burden. That evening back at the cabin, air felt lighter. Didn't tell children everything. Just met someone kind who helped quietly, believed in what they were becoming. Lyra, pragmatic, pressed. Was she pretty, Dad? Callan chuckled, ruffling her hair. Guess that depends what you think pretty is, Sparky. But yes, in her own way, she was. The invitation arrived weeks later. Thick ivory envelope, gold foil sticker, elegant handwriting, to the Brooks family. Callan almost threw it out. Inside, formal letter, Regional Children's Advocacy Council. Miss Lyra Brooks chosen for annual Voice of Courage Award, Extraordinary Bravery and Advocacy. Inviting her, family, guardians to informal ceremony, County Hall. Is this a mistake? Callan asked aloud, rereading. Lyra, peeking, snatched it, eyes scanned. Nope, says Lyra Brooks. I'm awesome. Callan stared, dumbfounded. What? She shrugged, all innocence. Think I told that whole lunchroom story about bullies for free? Event scheduled first Saturday in May. Spring finally, unequivocally came. Desert wildflowers, bees bumbling. Aurelia, meticulous, found Lena's old sewing kit, pang, then warmth for Callan, mended fraying hem of her only decent dress. Rowan, with Aurelia's help, tried 3 shirts, settled on one with tiny white buttons, collar he called itchy kind, but Aurelia assured looked distinguished. Callan dug out his only non-flannel, non-denim jacket, dark, slightly too small blazer, unworn since Rowan's baptism. Tight, but would do. Vivian Hartley heard, Callan haltingly called, quietly offered a tailor new clothes. Callan, with newfound confidence, politely refused. We have everything we need, Vivian. Thank you. County Hall. White pillars, wide, worn steps, faint scent of lemon wax, old paper. Auditorium, small, seated 100, maybe more. Nearly every seat filled. Ms. Louise beaming. Principal Hewitt. Familiar town faces, usually curt nods, offered warm smiles. 5 of them, Callan, Rowan, Aurelia, Lyra, and, at Callan's insistence, Vivian Hartley, slipped into back row, sat near front. 5 seats, 1 improbable, resilient family. Lyra, in middle, fidgeted, whispering jokes to Rowan, making him snort. Aurelia sat tall, silent, small white doctor's coat folded on her lap, symbol of quiet dreams. Callan rested hands on knees, nerves prickling. Proud, achingly, but uneasy in spotlight. More comfortable under broken pipe than expectant gaze. Then, Lyra's name. Walked to podium, unself-conscious confidence, simple dress swaying. Curly blonde hair tamed into ponytail. Bright blue ribbon, same from first school day. Crowd clapped, warm, genuine applause. Lyra took microphone, slightly too tall, cleared throat, looked out, gaze steady, unafraid. Used to think being loud made you bad, she began, voice clear, caring. Thought if I talked too much, too loud, people would stop listening or get angry. But then, someone told me voices aren't meant to be quiet, meant to be used, especially for people too scared or sad to speak. Murmur of agreement, soft as a sigh. Continued, small hands gripping podium. My name is Lyra Brooks, 6, almost 7. Used to be very, very small. But someone, gaze flickered to Callan, then Vivian in shadows, someone gave me a chair at their table. Now I want to help make room for others. Room utterly still. Then someone in back stood, clapped. Others followed, hesitantly, then with growing enthusiasm. Seconds, entire hall on its feet, applause washing over the small girl. Lyra beamed, radiant, unadulterated joy. Callan didn't clap, couldn't. Calloused, work-worn hands covered his mouth, hiding the softest, most heartfelt sob he'd ever tried to hide. After, as parents, teachers, local judge shook Lyra's hand, asked for photos, Callan felt a gentle touch. Vivian, no bodyguard, no assistant. Just her, simple, elegant pale green coat, silk scarf. Caught Callan's eye, offered small, almost shy smile. He excused himself, walked to her, quiet inevitability settling. Wasn't sure you'd come, he said, voice thick. Wasn't sure I should, she replied, gaze soft. This is your family's moment. You belong here, Vivian, Callan said simply, truer than any words in a long time. Part of this moment, too. Vivian's eyes softened, hint of moisture. Thank you, Callan. Hesitated, then asked unspoken question. Why did you finally decide to seek me out? He looked past her, towards 3 children laughing by refreshment table. Aurelia patiently explaining to Rowan, Lyra gesturing wildly. Didn't choose to seek you out, Vivian, turning back. Think. I finally recognized you. There's a difference. Choosing implies power. Recognition implies fate, or an understanding some threads are meant to connect. Let that sit. Quiet hum of dispersing crowd. Then said something not said, outside his tiny circle, in over a decade. Would you like to come by the house sometime, Vivian? For dinner, maybe? Vivian Hartley, reclusive billionaire, quiet philanthropist, blinked. Genuine, unguarded smile. I would like that very much, Callan. Later that week, Ms. Louise stopped by, small wrapped parcel. For Aurelia. Lena, your mother, Callan, started this for Rowan when he was a baby. Never got to finish. Inside, half-finished baby quilt, soft flannel squares, blues, yellows, intricately embroidered desert animals. Lena's neat stitches unmistakable. Found it tucked away. Donations for library book sale. When you cleared Lena's things years ago, Ms. Louise explained. Thought maybe Aurelia, with her clever hands, might like to finish it. For Rowan, or to have something of Lena's. Aurelia traced delicate embroidery, eyes wide. My, Lena's, she whispered. Callan nodded, throat tight. Your other mother. Aurelia looked from quilt to Callan, Ms. Louise, profound understanding dawning. No locket from a stranger needed to hold memory. She had threads of love, stitched by hands she'd never known, connecting her to a past she was now part of. That night, children tucked in, dreams of applause, punch, cookies, too-tight jacket hung on its lonely nail. Callan sat with tea, pencil, opened old battered journal, never showed anyone, wrote, There were 5 seats in the front of that hall tonight. One for a girl with a voice of fire, one for a girl with hands that longed to heal, one for a boy learning to see the world without eyes, one for a man who didn't know he was strong enough to build a bridge across his own grief, and one, in the shadows, but shining bright, for the woman who kept the light on long enough for all of us to find our way home. Today, Ms. Louise brought a piece of Lena back to us. Aurelia will finish the quilt. More threads connecting us all. He closed the book. Outside, single porch light, often flickering, burned steady, bright. And somewhere deep inside him, so did the future. No longer terrifying, empty expanse, but a landscape filled with fragile, precious, utterly astonishing possibilities. A map of scars, slowly, beautifully, being redrawn by love. What an incredible journey. What part of Callan, Rowan, Aurelia, and Lyra's story resonated most deeply with you? Do you believe, as Vivian Hartley did, in the quiet, profound power of compassion to reshape lives? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We truly love hearing from you. If this story of resilience, healing, and unexpected family touched your heart, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. We have many more journeys into the human spirit to share, and we wouldn't want you to miss a single one. Thank you for watching.